All right, welcome to another episode of Remote Voices. We've got the whole team this time, not just two of us, and then we've brought along a guest. So we've got a nice new layout here where our guest gets to hang out. Oh, this way, got a mirror, so he's over here.
Yeah.
And yeah, Charles, dude, thanks for joining us. We connected at CES. I think we talked before on Twitter, but done a really bad job of actually following up with you, and then just like randomly bumped into you guys at your booth at CES. But I'd love to give you an opportunity just to kind of like tell us about your company and your position and what you're doing and what COVID-19's been like for you and all that good stuff. So dive into it, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Charles Kagavet from Klaxoon. We are the meeting revolution. So it's really all about those times that teams come together to collaborate. Those are meetings, workshops, trainings, possibly a town hall. Really, you're looking to be efficient when you communicate, when you collaborate as a team. So we have a collaborative suite of apps that help you to do that with a brainstorm, quizzes, surveys. We're in 120 countries right now, offices in France and the US. And when you talk about what's going on, for sure, I think everybody's world has been sort of flipped upside down. So when we talk about meetings, well, those meetings have gone totally virtual. When we talk about workshops, they've gone totally virtual as well, and trainings and the whole nine. So for us right now, it's really about helping our customers. We work with 15% of the Fortune 500, 100% of the biggest companies in France, companies of all sizes, small businesses, universities, nonprofits, and everybody needs help. Everybody's looking to be effective, productive, communicate, collaborate in a way that kind of makes sense. And they need tools to do that. So we're really out there trying to help all our customers, but we're getting a ton of prospects as well, looking for solutions and looking for help.
Yeah, I was going to ask, have you found any new customer segments that maybe didn't pop up before but have now because things have changed?
Well, I think it's rare in any kind of business. It's rare in where the whole world has the same problem at the same time, and they need to fix it now. And when you talk about going full remote, I don't think many people were prepared to do that, right? And a couple of things happen. You know, they call people they trust. So one of the things that was important for us was to really assist as many people as we could, people that we care about, obviously our customers, but also prospects. So we decided to offer a free trial for 3 months of Klaxoon, but also at the same time offer guidance and assistance with our expert team for all those people going full remote. So it's giving you the keys to the car, but at the same time teaching you how to drive.
Yeah, interesting. We did a similar thing at Yak. It's one of those things where we know that everyone's searching, and the last thing we want is for price or purchasing decision to be like a reason why you don't try a better way to meet. In your case, a better way to work. In our case, so yeah, I mean, it's very similar. It's interesting to see how many different companies are changing their pricing strategy, changing their sales strategy, acquisition strategy, kind of based around the current situation. But yeah, man, we're glad to have you here. I think there's so much for us to talk about. What we love doing on these guest episodes is just kind of talking about these hot topics and then bringing in somebody that's also kind of in the parallel industry and getting your thoughts on it. So I'm literally just going to queue up some tweets, and you'll see them on your screen, and we're just going to kind of open up the floor to discussion. Sound good?
Awesome.
Cool. All right, let's see. I have no idea what order these are in, so let's see what's first. Okay, cool. So this is the Snapchat camera. My thing on this is I think we've obviously seen Zoom just like exploding growth. Families are using it now, schools are using it now. Everyone's struggling with it because I don't think Zoom ever really had a great interface to begin with, and kind of has always had. Hunter always talks about like the first thing you say in a Zoom meeting is like, "Can you hear me now?" And I feel like that's just like permeated even further. But now Snapchat's kind of like weirdly getting in on this trend of, offering a camera for Zoom. But I feel like maybe there's an opportunity for Snapchat to even have like a desktop app that's like Zoom Lite, but for families. I don't know, Charles, like, did you even see this news?
So maybe I'm too old for Snapchat and my kids are too young for
Yeah.
Snapchat. So I'm like sort of in this middle phase. But I think what's interesting about this is that this is even coming up, right? Like that, we were talking about Snapchat for teenagers. and that schools now have this huge challenge, and they're sort of scrambling to do what do we do? How do we do classrooms and learning? And that this would even be considered as something that would be done. I don't think anyone in the world would have thought that a month ago, and
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of happening. So it's a real challenge, and I think everyone is, trying to find a solution to this. I don't know if Snapchat is the way to get a virtual classroom going, but clearly it's unique.
Definitely.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited because it seems like there's going to be a lot more opportunities for learning. I can't think of any real examples off the top of my head other than like learning about like Roman times, where you could say, or even like with presidents, you can say, all right, well, dress up as your favorite president, and then you could like throw on like a filter for like
Mm.
some sort of hat, or in Donald Trump's case, the nice little wig or whatever he's got going on. But I think that brings like a whole different element to schools, and I just think, like you said, this would have never happened 2 months ago if you said like, "Oh, Snapchat's coming out with a filter for classrooms and Zoom calls." You'd just be like, "That's just so off-brand for them." But I mean, I've even seen Zapier come out with new tools lately. Obviously, Snapchat's coming out with new tools. Facebook just came out with a new tool, so it seems like everyone's kind of scrambling right now, and it's kind of cool to see the innovation from these. We used to call them startups, but now I feel like they're incumbents acting like startups again. I think it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think this is really cool. I think it also just makes a lot of sense because especially every kid 21 and under is on Snapchat. So I feel like it was kind of the next move for Snap inside of like this outbreak and craziness right now. So I think it's a great idea. Excited to
We talk a
see what
lot about
happens.
like how consumer behavior mirrors enterprise behavior eventually. Like whatever we're doing over as consumers, like eventually trickles its way into kind of the enterprise B2B market. And we do a lot of that kind of stuff with Yak. Like Yak on mobile is very similar to Snapchat because Hunter and I used to actually collaborate over Snapchat a lot. Like because they have a really good like drawing tool, and so he would just like snap a screenshot and then like draw over it in Snapchat and then send that to me. And that was like a lot of like an easy way for us to get back and forth. But I think like what Hunter says is really interesting. There are so many people just like scrambling to find demand. Like Google has like renamed like 4 things in the last like 2 days. Like Hangouts is now Hangouts Meet, but then it's now Meet, and then Hangouts Chat is now just called Chat, but it's different than Google Chat. Like they've just like constantly been rebranding stuff. Then Skype announced like a meeting thing. I think maybe
I
what's
didn't see that.
beneficial to you, Charles, is you already had everything, right? So like you're not scrambling, right? This is just like let's launch it and get it in front of people, right?
Well, totally. I think people are realizing they might have tested it, they might have used it a couple of times, and they're in searching for something that really creates engagement, interactivity, and that's a classroom setting, but that's also in the office. Everything that we do now, we should not try to plug in what we were doing before, right?
Mm.
We should rethink those rituals and those that process. So when we talk about a classroom setting, I mean, how do we flip the script? And how does a teacher all of a sudden not just become someone who is presenting that lesson that they've been presenting for 20 years and creates a moment of engagement with the students, gets the students to collaborate on projects, gets their opinion and their feedback on the program or on the lesson that's been going on. I think it's a great way to create engagement. There's a potential for a great way for engagement and for everyone to be involved in a way that they were never before. But there's also a huge issue with this, which is not everyone's has the opportunity to do it because they might not have a good internet connection. They might not have a great computer. So there's a lot of kids right now that maybe have to share a computer with 2 or 3 brothers and sisters. So I think in anything that we're trying to do, we really have to think about A to Z, the whole process and the whole ritual that we're putting into place, and think about the people who are using it. I think it's a great way to get more interactivity and more collaboration, but we have to think about the people, the tools, and where they are.
Yeah, you just created a perfect segue for me, so I just went ahead and moved this next one
Awesome.
up. This was something that I saw on Twitter the other night. I don't know if you saw this, but basically it says, "We just wrote a hard email. I told our son's lovely, kind, and caring teacher that no, we will not be participating in her virtual classroom and that he was done with the first grade. We cannot cope with this insanity. Survival and protecting his well being comes first." And It's a very long thread, so like I encourage you to even look at it after the fact. I have it pulled up in my Chrome browser in case we need it, but I thought it was very interesting. A couple of things here. One, that she said he was done with the first grade. I've really noticed this like trend of these very apocalyptic, permanent sounding statements that have kind of been sweeping the internet lately, and this one was scary for me. It's very interesting to hear what you just said about we have to think of the people, and this isn't just like easy for everybody to transition into. And you see this mom here, the thread basically talks about my husband and I work full time. I have like 3 businesses going on. Like school was in some aspects like a babysitter. And my best friend is a single father. He's got 2 kids, and he's just pulling his hair out now because he doesn't have a single moment away from them now, like to even breathe. I don't know, Charles, do you have kids?
I do, and I totally can relate to this in a way. I think we talk about going full remote, and I don't think it's the setting and is at all normal, right? Especially when the kids can't go to school anymore. Because if you've got parents and you've got the kids at home and they're not old enough to take care of themselves, and you don't want to attach them to an iPad, well, what do, right? And a lot of people, this situation has caused, I think, a lot of headaches for parents and parents with young children, but also the ability for your children not to be left behind. Because again, well, if you don't have a caregiver, if you don't have the right situation, well, the same kids might be not having the opportunities to learn in this situation, and the same parents might have a lot of pressure. We're really lucky. We're all knowledge workers. We can sit in our home office and have cool webcams and still get work done. But some people have to go out the door and are running around. And how do they do that? How do they take care of their kids at the same time as going out to work and stuff? So this is a major challenge, and I don't think we're living a moment that's really remote work. It's something else.
Yeah, definitely. Hunter, what do you think?
Yeah, what you just said, Charles. I was just talking with Heba from Soapbox, and she was saying the same thing last night. What we're going through right now it's not the remote work revolution. This is it's a pandemic. I mean, it's revolutionizing literally everything you do in daily life. Even in remote work, you're allowed to go outside. Your kids aren't necessarily at home with you. And so I see this shift in the conversation between, wow, remote work's amazing, to remote work actually has a lot of flaws. But like you just hit the nail on the head. I just think that this is one of the downsides of a pandemic, not necessarily remote work. And I think people are starting to confuse the two. And I like that people like Heba are making the distinct difference between them. But as far as this comment in particular, I think it's kind of interesting that someone just decides, well, my kid's done with first grade. It's like, I feel like you have to hit certain requirements for that, but at the same time, it's like, I get it.
Yeah, it's interesting that instead of like, we're going to put a pause on school, or we're going to be present but maybe not as active, the solution was like, you know what? Screw it. Like, we're just not even going to do school anymore. The solution is to just remove the problem completely.
I'm really interested in this because I'm seeing it for the first time. Justin, you said the reason they pulled the kid out is because they're too busy.
Yeah, it was basically like the stress on the family was just too much for like the well-being of the child to be in an environment in which like the parents are worn down. They can't possibly like even have time to cook. And like, it was just, she basically was saying like, it's so insane right now. The last thing we need to do is give our kids some very poor schooling job because we can't appropriately, put enough time and management and energy into this. The easiest solution is just not even try and do it.
I guess I'll be the guy that pushes back and says like, what's the alternative? So like the kid's just going to sit around now and do nothing all day, right? Because like, if they're busy working, I feel like virtual school still gives the kids something to do and keeps their attention occupied.
Well, I think
now it's like, do they just sit around all day?
I think what has to do with what Charles said, which is like, it's more about the execution and not necessarily like, you can't just like slap Zoom meetings on standard schooling. Like, that's just like not the environment the kid is used to. It's not the environment the teacher is used to. And so,
I mean, that translates to real life workplace too.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, that's totally true. So yeah, like Jordan, I think your point's valid. I think maybe the problem is that there wasn't a mindset shift of how do we transition from in-person schooling to virtual schooling. I think they just like didn't change anything and
And then
put a
that's what
lot
it
of
was.
responsibilities on the parents instead.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go back and read this tweet later. I'm super interested in this, but we can go to the next one. We've spent a lot of time on it.
All right, cool. Let's see. What do we got? Oh yeah, this one's just fun. This is just a fun tweet. So trying to make a list of all of the tech things that are suddenly hard to buy. So far I've got webcams, Nintendo Switches, Facebook portals, fitness trackers. What am I missing? This is David Pierce that's wrote this. I had a very hard time. I sold my Nintendo Switch to my friend in India because they're impossible to get there. And when I came back, a pandemic had hit and I didn't have a Switch. So I was going to rebuy one while I was here and they were sold out. So I had to like scramble to buy them, but they're like flipping for $500 on eBay right now. Similarly, we decided we were going to do this whole stream, and nobody had nice webcams. So like I've been just like scrounging the internet and Best Buys to try and buy webcams. Charles, have you had anything that you've needed to buy that you can't get a hold of?
Guys, you guys have so many high class problems, man. I'm just trying to get food, like, I have not literally thought about buying anything. To be honest with you, I've been more about thinking about local community and local stores and restaurants, local producers, product makers, whatever they might be, and trying to consciously say, hey, I want to buy local produced stuff, right? And that's where my head is at. I think, I have heard that people have, a lot like webcams and a lot of things like that have been out of stock. Interesting stat I heard was that at Walmart, they were selling a lot of tops, but not a lot of bottoms in the clothing side. So clearly buying habits have changed.
Because they're only seeing you from chest
period.
up on a webcam. You don't even have to wear pants. Is that the is that the takeaway
Exactly,
from that?
yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, Jordan,
Yeah.
you sent us a text about this, about buying gift cards for our like local coffee shop.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is kind of goes back to like what Hunter and I joke about sometimes. Like, oh my God, tech people have such a different problem. So in the context of this tweet, the one thing I would add is probably microphones. I was at Target yesterday, and I literally saw they had one microphone in stock. All the others are sold out. But yeah, I mean, in general, Charles, I think I tend to agree with you. I think it's really important now more than ever to like continue to support those local businesses, local people that like, you love and kind of believe in. Like something that we're doing is we're going to get some gift cards from one of our local coffee shops that we all three love. So it's just like a small thing that we can do.
Hunter would typically say that's the richest thing I've heard, right? If this is the worst problem we have in a pandemic, that I can't buy a webcam, I think we're probably in good shoes. But I mean, I think it's interesting that like Facebook portals, were people buying those before? Like, I didn't think that Facebook portals were something that people were very concerned about. But like
I wondered that too.
Now they're hard to buy. I find that so interesting.
I don't know anybody with one.
Yeah, neither do I. Maybe they're hard to buy because they stopped manufacturing them.
That's amazing. Hunter, your thoughts?
Oh, my thoughts. Well, before I go too far, I want to point out something that I bought recently. Charles, you'll appreciate this. I got myself a new plant, so it's a little bit more cozy for the room. I really think it sets the room off. And today I hit the trifecta at BJ's. So you want to talk about hard things to buy? I was able to find sanitation wipes, toilet paper, and napkins all in the same run. So if you want to talk about really, really hard things to buy, I think I hit the trifecta today.
Well,
man.
you're safe now.
Jokes aside, I actually just got these blue light. Can we see these blue light glasses? These have been hard to come by too.
Blue light glasses.
Times are good, huh? All right.
Oh man,
You're about to start a side hustle. It sounds like there, Hunter.
yeah, he's selling paper
Selling
products
stuff on the
out
black
of the trunk.
market.
All right, let's move on. What do we got as our next one? Microsoft Teams posting some unbelievable numbers. Microsoft Teams breaks daily record with 2.7 billion meeting minutes, tops mid-March high by 200%. Charles, have you guys seen any ridiculous numbers that come into your metrics, or are you even tracking stuff like this? Because I find it interesting that like the CEO of Slack was saying, oh, we've seen so much traffic that we started to record down to the millisecond on how many active users, and I'm like, God, I wish that was a problem I had to deal with.
Yeah, so we have customers in 120 countries, and usage is up everywhere. And that's what I was saying before about the worldwide thing. Everyone is doing virtual meetings, virtual workshops. So depending on the country, the usage is plus 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, times the normal. In terms of people coming in, it's tens of thousands of teams being onboarded on a weekly basis. So no surprise on that front. We actually have an integration with Microsoft Teams. A partnership with them for over a year now, and yeah, on that front as well, we're seeing a lot of Teams Klaxoon usage together that this has brought. I think also what is super interesting with this in this number, and I actually know Chris O'Brien, so hi Chris.
Hey, Chris.
The usage of video I think is up 1,000%. Over the last couple of weeks for them. Do you guys know what country, and there's 2 countries, that are tops in terms of doing meetings with the video on?
Oh, man.
Take a guess.
Justin, what's your guess?
I'm gonna say India for video on, because I always have to have my offshore team turn their video off. So I'm like, dude, come on. Like, no one needs to see the bottom of your chin right now. So my guess is India. What do you got, Hunter?
All right. Anybody else with the guess?
Top video would have to be somebody. It's got to be either Asian or Latin American. So I'm gonna say Japan.
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Can we double up?
All right, we got 2 votes for Japan and 1 for India. What is it?
All right, gentlemen. So number 1, Norway and Holland. 60% of the time they have their video on. India is last, only 22% of the time.
That's way off. That was way off.
Japan is not in the top. I think they're in the 30s, like 36, 37%. Do you want to guess the U.S. number?
Oh man, I don't.
It's got to be towards the bottom.
I think it's towards the bottom. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Throw out a number, guys. Be adventurous.
So like a numbered rank. So like I don't know, out of countries.
What percentage of the time do Americans turn on the
10%?
I'm going 13.
That's so specific. Okay.
Going 22%.
It's a lot higher. All right.
Yeah. So India's 22%. And a lot has to do with, internet quality and stuff, because when you're doing all this video conference stuff,
that makes sense.
You really need a bandwidth, right? So countries like South Africa and India are going to be automatically lower. Norway, Holland, 60%. USA is 38%, which is totally not in the tops. But it's a surprising thing, because I thought initially that it would be higher. Than that, and that leads to at Klaxoon we do a lot of research about the future of work, about meetings, collaboration, digital transformation, and really did a deep dive into what meetings look like. So in America, we have 55 million meetings a day, and I think that has probably been multiplied with what's happened with the full remote. And there were some reasons why people were not putting the cameras on, and there were big differences. And having done a lot of studies on this, men and women normally are pretty much the same. And on turning on the camera was actually one of the times that I found men and women did not answer the same. There was the preference. Men didn't mind having the camera on, right? But women had an issue with it, and they preferred not to do it. And I think there's some social pressure as well in what we're saying. If we're reading a lot about what you should do when you go remote, fix yourself up, make sure you're not wearing your pajamas and stuff like that. But I think there's maybe more social pressure on women than men on this, and that's why maybe we're seeing a lot of cameras not turned on, and it may be in countries like America.
But I think that's why it's higher in like Sweden and Norway. I feel like those people have just like perfect porcelain skin, and they're always like They always look good. I don't know. That's my weird like Hollywood version of what I assume it's like over there.
Where did you even come up with that?
I don't know, man.
Too many movies, I
It's
guess.
Too many movies. It's a stereotype. All right, what's
That's
next?
Hollywood stereotype for
What
sure.
do we got next? Okay, you sent this, Hunter. I think I only saw Ryan talk about it on Twitter, so you have more information than me.
Charles, did you see this mini office thing on Product Hunt?
No, but I want to try one. What? Tell me more about this.
It's fairly expensive, I think, for what it is. But basically, they deliver an office to you.
But it's
There's a couple
freaking
different
box.
packages.
It's like a mini fridge.
It's just a glass
Is it
box.
outside or inside?
Outside. They
It's in your
deliver it
house?
to your backyard. No, they deliver it to your
Oh, so you-
backyard. I think we lost you, Charles.
Charles came back. What were you saying, Charles?
There you go.
So this is your office ends up in your backyard, like a shed or something.
Yeah, except for it's the size of
Exactly.
a mini fridge, but with just glass on all sides. Like it looks.
Well,
so
that's one of the-
small. Is that
In their
that's the
defense, though, there's multiple
$9,000
packages.
option?
Well,
I'm
that's
not paying
$9,000. And it goes up
$9,000
a little bit.
for a mini fridge to put in my backyard that I could sit crunched over in.
Yeah, well, they have financing things too. I
okay.
believe
like
that
your own
one
fish-
starts
your own
at
fish tank.
$450 a month. Yeah, so it's like $450 a month. You can finance it through them. They have different packages, but I believe it comes fully furnished too. So I thought it was interesting that of all times, people like them are starting to launch, and people just want to get out of their house, I think.
So Charles, would you say
Maybe that's where
can you
first
get
rate
furnished
could
and
happen.
Say that again?
Can you get furnished options too?
That's what Hunter was saying. That I guess it comes furnished. I don't know how much you could possibly fit in this tiny little box, but I don't know. Charles, would you sit in your backyard in a small box?
I think one of the things is it all depends on your setup. I think many people did not think of a remote work setting before, right? It's like, oh yeah, I do it on Fridays or I do it once in a while, so I don't really think about it. And I think we've been forced to say, hey, we're 9 to 5 or 9 to whatever, working somewhere. We really need a dedicated space where I can get locked away. I have a space where I can do deep work and focus on things and be creative. So I think a mini office in your backyard sounds like a great place where you can get away, think about projects, build upon them. If you don't have that space in your house, if you don't have a home office, and worst case scenario, you stock it with a couple of beers, maybe. I don't know.
Hunter thought you were working out of a lifeguard stand, so there's always that.
I know. You told me that.
I got to get some of those. I'm not using a whole lot of art on my walls. It's kind of white. I was thinking about having these arches or something, but I would totally actually buy one of these. $450 a month. It beats most co-working spaces. Although Emilio just made a cool statement today. He was saying how Panera for $9 a month you get unlimited coffee, but obviously you get the Wi-Fi and the accessibility of having like the desk at Panera every single day. So, but anyway, I think this is pretty cool that this is even a thing right now, because I would never consider it up until maybe 2 weeks ago.
Awesome. All right. Well, I don't know. I saw one thing. I think Ryan said he'd be okay with doing it because it's all natural sunlight. And I think that's something that's interesting. I've got a window right here, thankfully. We have that open most of the time. I usually turn my light off, to be honest. And I do think natural sunlight is something that us people that maybe always worked from home kind of had already optimized for. That idea of like getting outside, taking a little walk for a little bit, getting some natural sunlight in. And I think maybe not everybody else that is new to this has ever really experienced that. Oh, look, you're turning your lights on now. But yeah, I think it's interesting, this concept of like, if you've been at home and you're not used to it, yeah, maybe you do want to go sit in a refrigerator in the backyard, because you at least get to kind of experience the outdoors. All right, I think we're at our last one here. Let's see. Okay, so this is my tweet, only because we couldn't find another tweet that referenced it that was good. But I got an email right before we went out here that Airbnb had launched online vacations. And it's just like the photo is just like an image. I wonder if I have. I think I can just throw the photo up here. But it's just like a photo of like a Zoom call, essentially. And, you think about all these industries that maybe were at risk. And I did not expect them to do that. That was definitely not what I thought that they would pull off, is like Zoom call vacations. Charles, did you see that? The email came in like right before we went online, so I'm not sure if you even saw it yet.
I think one of the things that's happened is people are being super creative, and we forget that a lot of people have their vacations canceled, and it's already a bummer being inside all the time, but even a bigger bummer if your vacation's been canceled. So I've actually heard people, pretending to go abroad, and they're doing like meals, or they're looking at movies from a certain region and things like that. So I think I think the creative aspect of people in this time is just pretty amazing. So I'm not surprised that you can virtually travel, and some of the things that are really cool is the museums and that you could visit virtually and things like that. So
But
you
would
can
you
get
go
away
to a
without
petting
leaving your
farm?
sofa.
Would you go visit a goat over? I think that's a sheep, probably. Over Zoom, is that something that you would do?
No, I don't think I would do that. But
He's just like, I don't know.
Not quite.
Jordan, would you visit a sheep over
some people
Zoom?
might.
No, but I wouldn't. But you know what this makes me think of is like how popular Animal Crossing is right now. I've seen a bunch of stuff online.
Yeah.
Like people are like going on like dates or like, and that's really fascinating to me right now. I think it kind of falls into the same thing. But no, I wouldn't go pet a virtual goat.
I think Animal Crossing is a great parallel because my wife and I have been playing that, and I play it very infrequently, so I'm massively far behind. But I do it because it is kind of this weird escape to like a different world where like I can be outside and pick fruit off of a tree and like do these things that I can't do in real life. I don't know. I always thought VR was going to be the thing that solved this, like the ability to visit a virtual location. I definitely didn't think I'd be going to like a farm on Zoom, or I'm actually interested. Hunter, do you know if they're like, is this Zoom or did they like build video conferencing overnight?
I think they built video conferencing, but I just also want to read some other things that they put out. So that you can join tango classes, tarot card readings, farm visits, and more, all while meeting new people. So I guess this is like a group activity. So I don't know if I would ever do anything like this, but I think I agree with Charles. I think this is the coolest thing ever, that these huge companies that haven't come out with new things, relatively recently, are now all of a sudden exploding with creativity. I think it's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think that's a cool comment there, Charles. That don't look at the ludicrousy of it. Look at the ingenuity of it. It's neat to see a company that all of a sudden had to figure out the bottom line, and some guy was like, dude, why don't we do like group tango classes online and make this about experiences you can share virtually? I don't know. That's some good insight. I'm glad we had you on today, because it's cool to hear from somebody else that's kind of an expert in the industry. We gave you an upgrade to your title before we got on this call, but you're clearly very wise beyond your years. It's been good chatting with you. I don't know, Charles, do you have anything to sign off with? Any promo codes for Klaxoon or anything our audience should hear?
Yeah, I would recommend anyone who's feeling challenged here, going remote and finding virtual meetings or workshops and collaboration in general difficult right now, to check out Klaxoon. Go to klaxoon.com, check out our free trial, and there'll be experts on the team ready to assist and guide you in this difficult time.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you joining, man. I'm going to have our audio track kind of sing us out, and we'll talk to you on the other side, man.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Appreciate it, man.
Bye.